3 days before Christmas, and I'm not the one invited. Cheating witch.
I'm 28, settled in Michigan, and building a career in construction management. I never really felt the urge to leave the city after graduating. Steady employment, a place of my own, and a lifestyle that's reliable, if not flashy, have kept me rooted. My most practical prize is a fully paid-off Ford F-150. Not the kind of vehicle that turns heads, but the kind that never leaves you stranded. That truck marked my first real leap into adulthood. I bought it from an older farmer who had babied it like it was part of the family. When I drove it home, it had just over 35,000 miles and service records that looked like a textbook. That first weekend, I tore into it, adding a bed cover for utility and swapping out the awful factory speakers for a sound system that didn't make my ears ache. For years, dating had been one disappointment after another. Women seemed to interpret my steady paycheck, clean apartment, and lack of drama as some kind of dullness. I'd reached a point where I quit chasing relationships and threw myself into other things. Fitness, long workdays, and a passion project, restoring a 1985 Mustang I tracked down online. Then, in June 2021, my buddy Marcus hosted a backyard barbecue, and that's when I met Rachel. She was unlike anyone I'd ever dated. An art teacher with a contagious laugh, a woman who carried herself with maturity instead of trying to look like she was still in college. We clicked almost instantly. For the first time, someone actually seemed to appreciate that I had my life together. She liked that I owned real furniture, that I planned actual dinners rather than grabbing greasy takeout, and that my weekends weren't wasted on hangovers. Rachel felt different right from the start. We had conversations about the future that were honest and natural instead of awkward. She teased me about needing a bigger place once we inevitably lived together, asked thoughtful questions about my lease renewal, and was genuinely curious about meeting my extended family during the holidays. What floored me most was her interest in the Mustang. I'd grown used to women rolling their eyes when I mentioned car projects, but Rachel? She showed up with fresh coffee while I worked in the garage, leaned over the hood to watch me explain repairs, and asked intelligent questions about rust, engines, and tools. One Saturday, she even tugged on her mom's old pair of vintage coveralls and joined me, sanding away corrosion from the quarter panels with real enthusiasm. She came out of it with dust on her cheeks and grit under her nails, and she never once complained. Her family welcomed me as though I'd been around for years. Her father, David, a retired police officer, took me under his wing almost instantly. He shared his grilling secrets, invited me to his garage, and even let me help him rebuild his '78 Camaro. Before long, our Sundays were a ritual. Beers in hand, engines open, conversations drifting from sports to the stubborn realities of life. David turned into the father figure I hadn't realized I needed. His garage was a mechanical wonderland, immaculate, meticulously labeled, outfitted with equipment most guys only dream about. A car lift, an industrial air compressor, and toolboxes filled with American-made steel dating back to the 1950s. Under his guidance, I learned carburetor rebuilds, valve adjustments, and 100 tricks you'd never find in a manual. Between the stories of police work and raising a family, he handed me an education in both engines and character. Rachel's mother, Linda, treated me with the kind of warmth that made it clear she had always wished for a son. She constantly sent me home with leftovers, shared articles she thought I'd enjoy, and asked my opinion about everything from paint swatches to yard tools. At family dinners, she would literally shoo Rachel away just to pull me outside and show off her garden or ask about my projects. That garden was a masterpiece. Rows so neat they looked drawn with a ruler, charts tracking harvest schedules, and a greenhouse that operated like a laboratory. She peppered me with questions about soil balance, irrigation systems, and growth cycles, then turned around and taught me her canning techniques. When she learned about my project management background, she even enlisted me to help redesign the greenhouse's layout. It wasn't long before they started telling Rachel how lucky she was. David would nudge about marriage. Linda dropped hints about future grandchildren. The truth is, I adored them both. Being around her family didn't feel like obligation. It felt like belonging. By the time autumn of 2022 arrived, I had already made up my mind. I was going to ask Rachel to marry me. Hidden away in the back of my dresser drawer was an $8,000 engagement ring, tucked safely beneath folded sweaters where I checked on it almost daily, just to reassure myself it was still there. The blueprint was simple but meaningful. Christmas night, after dinner at her parents' house, with both of our families gathered around the table for dessert. I had rehearsed the moment in my head a dozen different ways, every detail planned down to the timing of the toast. When October rolled around, I slipped into full holiday mode like something out of a Hallmark movie. My family has always gone over the top for Christmas, So for me, planning early wasn't just normal. It was tradition. And this particular season carried extra weight. It was our first Christmas as a couple heading toward engagement. I wanted everything to feel seamless. By mid-October, I was already juggling schedules, securing reservations, buying the right clothes, and mapping out a gift exchange so the evening wouldn't feel rushed. One of the centerpieces of my plan was a dinner reservation at Sterling's, an upscale steakhouse Rachel had once mentioned after spotting it on a food blogger's feed. I managed to lock in a 7 p.m. slot on Christmas Eve. Prime time, impossible to get without relentless persistence. I specifically requested their best table overlooking the city lights and made sure the staff knew it was for a special occasion. On top of that, I bought a new blue sweater simply because Rachel had once said that color suited me best. Nothing was left to chance. Gift shopping turned into a detective mission. At Thanksgiving, Linda casually mentioned her grandmother's china pattern, lamenting that she wished she could complete the set. That single comment sent me on a 4-week odyssey across antique shops in 3 different counties until I finally uncovered 6 matching pieces. Around the same time, David mentioned a rare book on police history he had been wanting to read. I hunted down a first edition online, the kind of thing you have to dig through obscure collectors' forums to even find. Rachel's gift required the most effort of all. She had been quietly bookmarking a professional art supply set for months. The Winsor & Newton Premier Kit with nearly 150 brushes, pencils, and specialty tools. She could never bring herself to spend that much money, but I had been saving since summer. Dropping nearly $900 didn't faze me because I knew the look on her face would be priceless. I thought of everything, including backup plans. What if a snowstorm made driving to her parents impossible? What if the restaurant lost my reservation? What if someone's family schedule changed at the last minute? I had scenarios mapped out and contingencies prepared. Looking back, I might have gone overboard, but planning like that was my way of showing I cared, through details, preparation, and foresight. Then, as November crept in, the cracks began to show. The first warning sign came when I unveiled the china set I had spent weeks tracking down. I laid the pieces out across my kitchen table like priceless artifacts, excited to see Rachel's reaction. Instead, she barely looked up from her phone. "Oh yeah, that's nice," she mumbled, scrolling through Instagram as though I had just shown her a grocery receipt. "Your mom's going to be over the moon when she sees these," I pressed, hoping for more. She gave me a distracted without lifting her eyes from the screen. She chalked it up to exhaustion, parent conferences, holiday concerts, endless paperwork. Teaching middle school in December is like trying to control chaos armed with nothing but patience, so I accepted the explanation. She would come over worn out, grading stacks of assignments at my kitchen table while venting about pushy parents and tight deadlines. I cooked, listened, and assumed the phone fixation was her way of decompressing. But soon, another name began creeping into our conversations. Tyler. At first, it was casual, an old college friend who had just moved back for a job with some local startup. "Tyler thinks I should travel more," she'd say, or, "Tyler says this town stifles creativity." It sounded harmless, the way people talk about reconnecting with old acquaintances. But soon, Tyler became a daily character in our lives. Tyler believed she should take risks with her art. Tyler said small towns eliminates ambition. Tyler had crazy stories from Denver, where he lived before. The more I heard, the more unsettled I became. From what I gathered, he worked for a boutique coffee company peddling overpriced blends to hipster cafes, probably owned a dozen flannel shirts, and had far too many opinions about pour-over methods. Yet Rachel seemed enamored with his so-called creative energy. She gushed about how he'd already traveled to 8 countries before turning 30 and contrasted it with her never leaving Michigan. I'm not the jealous type by nature, but the shift was impossible to ignore. She was glued to her phone during dinner, her answers to my questions vague and evasive. When I asked who she'd been with, the word friends replaced specific names. On November 20th, I brought up our Christmas dinner plans, those carefully laid reservations at Sterling's, and she casually suggested, "Maybe we should keep things flexible this year." "Flexible how?" I asked. "Just not so structured. More spontaneous," she replied. The alarms were ringing loud and clear, but I told myself it was stress, the season, the chaos of teaching. I wanted to believe that, but I couldn't have been more wrong. December 19th, only 3 days before Christmas, and my apartment looked like a holiday command center. The coffee table was buried under rolls of paper and ribbon, scissors tucked between stacks of boxes. I had every present sorted like a general preparing for battle. My family's in one pile, her parents in another, and Rachel's gifts sitting right in front, wrapped with extra care. I felt proud, organized, ready for everything the holiday was supposed to bring. Then she walked in. One look at her face, and I knew. It wasn't exhaustion from teaching, and it wasn't just December stress. It was the expression that precedes the kind of conversation nobody wants to have. The "we need to talk" face. "Mike, we need to talk," she said. Her tone was calm, but her eyes gave her away. I thought she was about to suggest we change travel plans or adjust our timing for dinner. Instead, she sat down on the couch, folded her hands in her lap, and delivered the sentence that made my entire body freeze. "I'm bringing Tyler to Christmas dinner instead of you." The ribbon slipped right out of my fingers. I stared at her like the words hadn't registered. "What did you just say?" She took a shaky breath. "I know this is awful timing, but Tyler and I have been talking, and it's different with him. With you, everything feels planned out, structured, like we're following a script. With him, things feel natural, alive." I put down the gift I had been wrapping, hers of all things, and tried to process it. 3 days before Christmas, after months of preparation, after everything I've been working toward. "I know," she said quickly. "I've been searching for the right moment to tell you, but it never came. You're thoughtful in ways most people would envy. The dinners, the gifts, the reservations, the way you notice every detail. My family says it should make me feel lucky, but instead, it makes me feel trapped." "Trapped," I repeated, my voice sharp. "By someone caring enough to actually think ahead? Trapped by someone writing out every step of a future I haven't even decided on yet," she replied, her voice cracking. "Tyler doesn't do that. He's spontaneous. He makes me feel like I can breathe again." Then she dropped the real blow. "And I saw the ring in your dresser last week. I know what you were planning for Christmas dinner." I felt my chest tighten. "You went through my things?" "I wasn't snooping," she said quickly. "I was looking for a charger and I found it by accident. Mike, I'm only 24. I'm not ready to be engaged. Can you imagine how painful it would have been for both of us if you'd proposed in front of our families and I had to say no? I'm sparing you that humiliation." I let out a bitter laugh. "You're calling this a favor?" "Yes," she insisted, tears streaming now. "This way, we both save face. There's no public rejection, no scene in front of our parents. We can end things quietly." "How thoughtful of you," I muttered, unable to hide the edge in my voice. She shook her head. "You think I'm being cruel, but I'm just being honest. Tyler doesn't pressure me. He doesn't plan every detail. He just wants to enjoy life as it comes, and that's what I need. As for the gifts, the reservations, my family, I'll handle it. They'll understand. The truth is, Mike, you and I want completely different things. I can't be with someone who already has our entire lives laid out like a spreadsheet." I could have fought for her. Could have pointed out she seemed pretty happy about all my planning until Captain Spontaneous showed up. Could have begged her to wait until after Christmas. Could have asked why she was sabotaging everything we'd built. But honestly, something in me just snapped. I stood up, gathered all the gifts I'd bought for her family into a neat pile, and set them on the coffee table. "Give these to your parents. They deserve to have Christmas gifts, even if I won't be there to watch them open them." She's looking at me like I'm some kind of robot. "Mike, you're making this way harder than it needs to be." "Nah, I'm making it exactly as hard as it needs to be." I went to my bedroom, got her overnight bag from my closet with her spare clothes and toiletries, and handed it to her, opened the front door, and held it. Can we try to stay friends?" she asks while clutching her bag. I just looked at her. "You made your choice, Rachel. I'm not going to argue about it or help you feel better about screwing me over." More crying, but not the "I made a mistake" kind. The frustrated "this isn't going according to my script" kind. After she left, I sat there staring for about 10 minutes before my brain kicked back in, called my best friend Derek, and just said, "I need to get out of here." "Dude, what happened? You sound like someone just told you they're canceling pizza forever." "Rachel dumped me 3 days before Christmas for Tyler." Dead silence. "The college dirtbag with the man bun who works at that pretentious coffee startup. Are you absolutely kidding me right now?" 20 minutes later, I'm at Derek's apartment with an overnight bag. The guy's got his gaming setup ready and a cooler full of energy drinks like he's preparing for some kind of breakup, war room operation. Christmas at Derek's was better than expected. "So, let me get this straight," Derek says while booting up Call of Duty. "Princess Spontaneous couldn't handle dating an actual adult, so she traded you for Walmart Ryan Gosling? She said I was too structured, that I planned everything out too much. Yeah, God forbid someone remembers her birthday and doesn't live in his mom's basement eating ramen." Derek hands me a controller. Did you tell her about the ring? She found it in my drawer. Said she was doing me a favor by dumping me before I could propose. Derek pauses the game and stares at me. Wait, what? Are you serious? Her exact words. Bro, I've heard some delusional stuff in my time, but that's Hall of Fame level crazy. He unpauses and immediately gets destroyed by some 12-year-old. You know what this means, right? You just dodged a bullet the size of the Death Star. Imagine if you'd actually married someone who thinks caring about her is a character flaw. We spent Christmas Eve gaming and eating frozen pizza while trash-talking random kids online. Every time I started getting in my head about the situation, Derek would drop some ridiculous comment about Rachel or make some joke that cracked me up despite everything. You know what's going to be hilarious? He said around 2 a.m. while we're getting destroyed in some battle royale. She's going to spend Christmas explaining to her family why you got replaced by a guy whose biggest accomplishment is probably running a Juice Cleanse Instagram account. Christmas morning, I woke up early out of habit, made coffee, went for a long walk around Derek's neighborhood, called my parents. They weren't even surprised about the breakup. Apparently, they'd had reservations about Rachel, but didn't want to say anything. While you were happy, she always seemed like she was looking for something else, my mom said. Like you were just a placeholder until something more exciting came along. My phone started blowing up around noon Christmas Day. First, it was Rachel. My mom keeps asking where you are, and I don't know what to tell her. Then, Tyler is trying his best, but he doesn't understand our family traditions. By evening, the tea set you got my mom made her cry. She said it was the most thoughtful gift she'd ever received. Her parents started texting me directly around dinner time. Mike, Linda and I are furious with Rachel for what she did to you. You didn't deserve this garbage. The gifts you got us are incredible, and we're heartbroken you're not here. You'll always be family to us. Linda sent me a whole paragraph. Sweetheart, I don't understand what got into our daughter. You're family to us and always will be. This Tyler boy is rude and arrogant, and we told Rachel exactly how we feel about this whole situation. We love you, and we're so sorry. They even sent me pictures of Linda using the tea set and David reading his book, clearly trying to show Rachel what she'd thrown away. David's follow-up text included a photo of him giving Tyler the stink eye across the dinner table, while the dude tried to explain why he didn't eat meat. The final text of the night was from Rachel. I think I might have made a mistake. Can we please talk after the holidays? I read every message, started typing responses to all of them, deleted everything, and put my phone on airplane mode. She made her choice, and I wasn't about to help her feel better about it. 2 weeks later, she called me around 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, voice all raw and desperate like she'd been crying for hours. Mike, I need to talk to you. Tyler left. Okay? That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Rachel? He said he was just having fun over the holidays and didn't want anything serious. He's going back to Denver. Her voice cracks. I threw away everything we had for someone who was just messing around, shocking absolutely no one except you. Please don't be cruel. I'm falling apart here and you're just cold. What did you expect? You chose the guy who lives in the moment over the guy who planned ahead. Turns out living in the moment means he wasn't planning to stick around. She kept calling for weeks after that, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails. Her friends started hitting me up too, like some intervention squad. First, Jessica. Rachel's really struggling and she misses you so much. She knows she made a huge mistake. Then Madison. She's been crying every day since New Year's. Can't you just talk to her? You're being so unreasonable. Meanwhile, Derek's sending me screenshots of her Instagram posts with commentary like, damn, someone discovered the inspirational quote section, and is this the same chick who said you were suffocating her? Because she's looking pretty suffocated by her own drama right now. Her social media became this cringe fest of sad quotes about realizing what you had when it's gone, and pictures of herself looking contemplative in coffee shops. Classic attention-seeking energy that had me and Derek cracking up. By March, the calls finally stopped. I heard through mutual friends she'd moved back in with her parents and started therapy. Honestly, good for her. I hope she figured out whatever was broken inside that made her blow up her life. Meanwhile, I threw myself into actually living instead of just planning to live. Started taking photography classes on weekends, which led to solo trips around Michigan, hitting up state parks and small towns. Started hitting the gym more consistently. The photography classes were at this community college downtown, taught by this old-school photographer who'd worked for newspapers back when that was still a real job. I learned to shoot manual mode on my dad's ancient Canon, that had been collecting dust in my closet, started documenting the Mustang restoration process, which turned into this whole portfolio about American muscle cars and blue-collar pride. Even had a few prints selected for a local art show. Work was going great, too. My project management skills, which Rachel found suffocating, were getting me promoted. Turns out being organized and thinking ahead were actually valuable traits in the real world. The promotion came with a nice salary bump and my own office with actual windows. But the real win? I finally pulled the trigger on something I'd been wanting for years. Bought a 2017 Harley Iron 883. Thing was a bit beat up, but had good bones. Spent my weekends in Derek's garage tearing it down and rebuilding it piece by piece. You know what they call a motorcycle that won't start? Derek said one Saturday while I'm rebuilding the carburetor. A really expensive paperweight with trust issues. Kind of like my dating life, but louder. There's something therapeutic about working with your hands. Plus, every time I fired up that engine, I felt like I was reclaiming something Rachel had tried to take from me. The confidence to be myself. That's when I met Sarah through this hiking group I joined. Complete opposite of Rachel in every way that mattered. Where Rachel was impulsive and flighty, Sarah was thoughtful and grounded. Where Rachel was always looking for the next adventure, Sarah appreciated building something solid. Most importantly, she actually liked the stuff about me that Rachel found overwhelming. I love how you remember things, she told me when we were planning our third date. It makes me feel like I actually matter to you. Sarah's the kind of person who chose a career based on actually helping people, instead of chasing abstract creative fulfillment. She'd grown up on a farm outside Detroit, knew how to fix things when they broke, understood the value of hard work and planning ahead. The girl could back up a truck, change a tire, and cook a meal that didn't come from a box. Plus, she thought the Harley was badass and wanted to learn to ride. Our first Christmas together, she was genuinely excited about doing it right. I want to meet your family, and I want you to meet mine, she said, while we were picking out a tree. My family does everything last minute, and I've always wanted to experience what it's like when someone actually plans ahead. Are you sure? I tend to go overboard with holiday planning. She laughed and kissed me. Promise me you will. We're at Target buying decorations when my phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Rachel. I know it's been a while, but I wanted to reach out. I'm doing much better now and was hoping we could talk, maybe grab coffee and catch up. I showed Sarah the message. She reads it and asks, do you want to respond? I thought about it for exactly 2 seconds. Nope. Deleted it and went back to debating between silver and gold garland. Good choice, Sarah said. The gold will look better with your couch. Then came the holiday party ambush. Our mutual friend Marcus throws this holiday party every year at his place. Sarah and I show up fashionably late. I'm feeling good about life. And then I see her across the room. Rachel standing by the punch bowl, looking smaller than I remembered, checking her phone every 30 seconds like she's waiting for an Uber. Sarah spots her immediately. Is that her? Yep. And she looks about as lost as I expected. I'm talking to Marcus about his new job when I feel someone approach from behind. I turn around and there's Rachel with this forced smile, holding her drink like a shield. Mike, I didn't know you'd be here tonight. You look really good. Healthy. I put my arm around Sarah's waist. Hey, Rachel, this is Sarah, my girlfriend. Sarah immediately extends her hand with a genuine smile. Sarah, I know Mike mentioned you two had history. It's nice to meet you. I watch Rachel completely ignore Sarah's outstretched hand and look her up and down. Right. Sarah. The way she says it sounds like she's tasting something bitter. I've been thinking about us lately, Rachel says, voice getting tight while still pretending Sarah doesn't exist. About what we had together. All those plans we made. That was a long time ago, Rachel. I've moved on. But don't you miss it? The way we used to be? The way you used to plan everything for us? She's looking directly at me, completely cutting Sarah out of the conversation like she's invisible. Sarah jumps in, clearly proud. Oh, Mike's been amazing. He's working with my mom to perfect her grandmother's pot roast recipe for Christmas dinner, and he found the most incredible gifts for my nieces and nephews. I honestly don't know how he keeps track of what they all love, but it's one of the things I adore about him. Rachel's face goes through about 5 different emotions: surprise, anger, jealousy, rage, before settling on pure venom. How nice for you, she says to Sarah with this fake sweet voice. It's so easy to appreciate someone when you haven't had to deal with their obsessive need to control everything yet. Give it time. Excuse me, Sarah says, stepping forward. Please, Rachel says. composure completely cracking as she turns back to me. Can we just talk privately without her? No, I interrupted. Have a good night, Rachel. You can't be serious right now. You're really going to choose her over what we had? I already did. 14 months ago when you made the choice for me. But I know now that I made a mistake. I was young and scared and stupid. Her voice is getting louder and more desperate, head starting to turn. You can't just replace me with some random girl. As Sarah and I start walking toward the exit, I turn back one last time. Next time you find someone who plans Christmas around you, maybe don't wait until 3 days before to tell them they're uninvited to their own proposal. That's when she completely lost it. Are you serious right now? She screams across the party, loud enough to stop every conversation. You're just going to walk away after everything we had? The whole party goes dead silent. Sarah is squeezing my hand and we keep walking, but Rachel's not done making a scene. She doesn't even know you like I do. She's just some rebound who will never understand what we had. Her friends Jessica and Madison come rushing over, trying to grab her arms and drag her toward the door. Rachel, stop. You're making a scene, Jessica hisses. I don't care. He's making a huge mistake, and everyone here knows it. As they're physically dragging her toward the exit, Madison shoots us this dirty look and says loud enough for half the party to hear, Wow, real classy, Mike. Bringing this random girl just to hurt Rachel. You actually downgraded in case no one told you. Sarah squeezes my hand as we walk to my truck. Well, that was more dramatic than I expected. For me? Or for her? Definitely for her. She looked like she was watching her entire future walk away. Maybe she was, but that's not my problem anymore. Fast forward to today, and life's honestly better than I could have imagined. The Harley restoration was complete. Derek and I had turned that beaten-up iron 883 into something that belonged in a magazine. Every Saturday, we cruise around Michigan, hitting up small towns and dive bars, just enjoying the freedom. Sarah moved into my place around June, and it was seamless. She can cook like she went to culinary school, actually wants to hit the gym with me, and never complains when I disappear to work on the bike or hang with the boys. She'll just smile and say, "Have fun, babe," then post some cute story about loving to watch me in my element. Sarah and I are getting married this coming fall. I proposed with the same ring I bought for Rachel, but this time it's for someone who actually deserved it. Derek's my best man, and his speech will probably include a 5-minute roast of my questionable taste in ex-girlfriends that'll have the entire wedding cracking up. My restored Harley will be our getaway vehicle. Sarah, in her wedding dress, riding behind me on a motorcycle, will probably be the coolest moment of my existence. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just living well and finding someone who appreciates the same things about you that others found annoying.